back, everybody, to another edition of the Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. As usual, I'm Bob Lung here from the Fantasy Football Expo. And as you see, we have a quartet tonight. Everybody here from the Fantasy Sports Corporation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. We have Jason Cooper, Chris Anderson, Eric Lagenecker, and Jordan Thomas. Sorry if I screwed up the name, Eric.
Nailed it.
All right, that's not too bad. Gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Really looking forward to you guys being a part of it. Jason, I'm going to go to you first, so you can kind of describe to the folks of you guys are a multiple group of you're kind of the super group. You're the cream or whatever kind of super group you can think of from the past, putting together all of these tremendous talents that come from different genres, different niches. Talk about Fantasy Sports Corporation. It's a cool thing coming together.
Sure. Well, with that said, Backstreet's back. All right. No. So we collectively had we all were on a show together is how this kind of all started, and collectively had conversations during the time. I know Jordan's been on my show a few times. I like to do like SNL type skits on my show. So a lot of the video stuff comes from me. And Jordan's been on, done some skits with us, and the conversation essentially started, hey, we are all out here grinding by ourselves. If we put our powers combined, we could be something special. And of course, again, it's nothing new. This is not something crazy but we will bring something new to the table when you come to our podcast. It's not just people sitting around talking. There's a lot of visual and video components to it, and we have a lot of fun on our shows. That's the main thing we want to get across with our network. Fun. Sit back, relax. You're going to sit and actually watch a television program versus sitting back and just watching people talk. So that's the main thing as far as our presentation, what fantasy sports is all about.
Love it. Well, we'll get to more about you guys being a big part of this year's Expo a little bit later, but let's start as anybody always does, right? We're going to start from the beginning. So we're going to start off. So Chris, let's start with you. Tell us about when you started playing fantasy football, why you started playing, who got you into it, and what year, how long you've been playing. So Chris, tell us your story about your life of getting into fantasy football.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Bob. Well, it started when Moses came off the mountain. He inscribed some tablets. This is back in the 1900s, kids. I don't know. I think most of us here were born in the 1900s. So we used rock, chisel. Honestly, I started playing probably 97, 98.
Okay.
I feel like, but I can tell you this. We started playing when we actually mailed the commissioner our lineups every week in the snail mail with the stamp and an envelope. Yep.
Been there.
And then we scour the newspaper articles for points.
Yep.
And I started playing fantasy baseball. And then 1 year of that was enough for me. That was a full-time job.
Especially by hand.
Yeah. My God. Then
football
we figured out
bad
fantasy
enough by hand.
Yes. We figured out fantasy football. It was a lot of fun, and that's about when AOL started really banging, and then Yahoo comes out on fire, and it's been fun ever since. Then fantasy football was fun. Before it was you had to love it. Like you had to love the grind of reading paper.
You had to have a good commissioner who was willing to put in the work, because that was a lot of work. Now it's like, I'm the commissioner. Like you don't do anything other than maybe you'd set up the league on ESPN or Yahoo or wherever you're setting it up. That's about it.
It felt to me like if I had a bunch of guys in my league and any of them had 0s or 9s in their phone numbers, because you had to rotary dial that shit. So I'm not trading with you if you come with 2 9s in your number. I'm not doing all that.
Yeah,
so
well, my number was
a good phone number.
My number was 2,500, so you probably wouldn't have called me.
Oh, no, that's so long all the way back.
No reason.
So yeah, I've been playing a long time. I love fantasy football. Eric and I and Patriot Sports kind of formed together more of a betting podcast. So we do over at Fantasy Sports Court. We cover all of the sports book betting.
Awesome.
For the not all of it, but we do a majority of it. That's kind of what we do. But during the football season, we all play fantasy. Obviously, we're all in it. I don't play basketball and baseball fantasy at all, but we bet the hell out of it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. No, I love the story. All right, Eric, tell us your beginnings here, humble beginnings of fantasy football. Were you using stone and tablets as well, or did you come into the digital age in the early 2000s?
No, yeah, I was very digital, and thanks for having us on. This is really
Oh,
cool. I didn't start till 2015. I resisted it for a very long time because I was convinced that playing fantasy football would ruin how I feel about the game. I wouldn't like my favorite team as much anymore. I would be rooting against my favorite team in certain scenarios because I saw the mental gymnastics some of these guys were doing. Like, all right, I need Calvin Johnson to score a touchdown here, but I also want the Packers to win. I'm like, not putting myself in that position. Finally, I went to a new shift at work and someone asked me to play. And I thought, I don't know any of these people. This would be a great way to at least make a dozen friends quick.
Right.
So I said yes and, got my ass kicked. The commissioner fleeced me for LeGarrette Blount. That was the year he scored 18 touchdowns. Ooh. I didn't understand why everybody was so mad. I didn't quite get what was happening. But the year after, I started finding fantasy football podcasts. And that pulled me completely out of the gutter. I, was winning leagues a year or two after that. So perfect. I was wrong. It's awesome. I should have started a long time ago.
Love it. All right. Jordan, tell us your story of how you got started.
So I'm somewhere in between Eric and Chris up there. I started at about 2008, and me, man, I've always had a ton of friends, but I've never really had a lot of football friends. And so I had one, his name was John. We decided to get in a league together. He found a couple guys. I found a couple guys. Before you know it, we were off to the races and did really well out of the gate. Won my home league first year. Found out later it was more about them and less about me on that first win. But as I win, I discovered like the football guys. I feel like a little bit before everybody else and did really well there. Then and I've just continued to play, and I'm the crazy guy that's in, 20 plus leagues every season. That's how I met all of these wonderful gentlemen. And I think they'll be the first one to tell you that, the league that we won in, the competition, the trenches, none of them won, but I certainly did.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with being more than 20 leagues. Nothing wrong with it at all. Just saying. All right, Jason, you're going to go last here, but tell us about your history of getting started in fantasy football. What got you in? When did you start? And how'd you do?
Little did you know, you say the best story for last, my friend. The year was 1999. Ooh. I did just got out of the military, actually. So this was like my buddy was telling me he knew what a statistician with football I was. One of my first gifts, I was 7 years old. My dad gave me a NFL almanac. And I used to read it all the time. I used to study it, used to go in and out. So I knew everything of everyone, just the way it's always been. When I was a little kid, we didn't have DirecTV. I would listen to it on the radio. I would go anywhere. I'd watch it on the fuzzy little TV, whatever I could, because I was a football junkie. So my buddy says, hey, why don't you come try this game? It's like the second year we're doing this. It's called fantasy football. I was like, all right, whatever, I'll try it. So I go there, my first ever pick, by the way, Drew Bledsoe. So that's my first pick. Now I am
in the first round.
In the first round, I don't know what I'm doing, mind you. Right? I don't know. So my buddy, we're both huge Dolphin fans.
Was that the year that Bledsoe got knocked out and Brady stepped in?
It was. So he turns around.
1999.
He turns around and looks at me, and after I made the pick too, and he's like in total disgust because he knows what big Dolphin fans we are, and he's looking at me like, "What are you doing?" So anyway, the greatest part of this story, though, who else I pick up that year? Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. And that same dude told me, hey, that guy Trent Green got hurt in preseason. That quarterback they have, you might want to pick him up. So guess who had the greatest show on turf for his first fantasy season? Nobody stopped me. And during the midst of the season, there was some questions regarding the commissioner's integrity. So they decided to put the new guy as the commissioner. Ever since, hence my show name is Commissioner Cooper. Ever since, that's all I ever do is run fantasy leagues. I love it. We're going to Vegas this year for our big one for our 20th for one of our leagues.
Oh, awesome.
We just love fantasy football and football in general. So that's how I got started.
Love it. I love that story. Yeah, that's good. I started in 1985, so I was way back. We definitely didn't have much. We actually barely had PCs at that point. I had one, luckily, where I worked, so I got to be the commissioner. And I'm still the commissioner of the same league now, almost 40 years in. So anyway, great stories, guys. So you play fantasy football. You've been in it for a while. So what got you into where you are today? Podcasting. You know, you guys talk about different Patriot and TSS and all these wonderful organizations. Talk about what got you into that kind of has led to this super group of today. So let's go backwards this time. So we'll go to Jordan first. In kind of, well, yeah, we'll go to Jordan first. We'll go to Jason last. He'll always have the best story anyway. I'm just kidding.
If you ask him, he most certainly will. But
Sure.
yeah, so a few years ago, I'm sitting on my couch. One of those guys that was in that very first league with me years and years ago, my buddy Laramie, tags me in this random post on Facebook. Hey, come like and subscribe to our page at TSF and have a chance to win, one of these items. Cool. I didn't have anything at the time. So I went in, I put my name in the hat, and sure enough, I ended up winning a Todd Gurley autographed 8x10 from True Serum Football.
Nice.
And so became a huge fan overnight, started really following them and really engaging them. And then come the Thanksgiving games that year, Joey, the host at the time, wanted to bring on a couple of fans. And I'm a diehard Cowboy fan, for better or worse, mostly worse. But he wanted me to come on and talk about the Cowboy game that Thanksgiving. I did it. We clicked. He asked me to come on, permanently there. And I've kind of been doing that ever since. Absolutely loved it. And then ultimately, like I said earlier, I ended up in the Trenches League. That competition, met Patriot Sports, met TSS, and, the rest is history.
Love it. All right. Eric, let's go to you. Talk about your humble beginnings leading into where you're at today with you guys' podcast. It's super cool.
We started Patriot Sports Radio in February of 22 because we just weren't happy with what's available, and we thought we could make our own brand of stuff that's pretty good. And so far, we got some people who are agreeing, so that's great. We've got some other shows going now. We've got Plus Money Golf. We have a morning live stream during football season. Sunday mornings, we do Wake and Rake, where we essentially just field lineup questions all morning. So that's a good time. And yeah, it's just basically we have this freedom to do this. We have this ability to do this, and we think we have the talent to do it. So let's take advantage. Not everybody has this opportunity.
Love it. All right, Chris, what about you?
I'm the same as Eric. I mean, that's how this whole thing started. I was watching ESPN, and I was just sick and tired of the same shit over and over and over. I just turned it off, called Eric, and was like, hey, bro. Me, Eric, and Coach, another guy who owns Patriot Sports Radio with us, have been in a fantasy league for a few years at that point, texting back and forth, and it's a radio show. If you've had a text, anybody has a fantasy football league that has a text thread with a couple of witty guys, those are fun text threads. And they started to go like 2 years in a row, and I just thought, let's just say this in the microphones.
Yeah, this company was really born from fantasy football.
Yeah. And a degenerate gambler to my left over here named Eric. This guy wakes up at 3:00 in the morning betting Korean ponies and seeing what kind of baseball leagues are going on in Japan.
There's always something going on.
Seriously, we bet over here at Patriot Sports Radio.
That's fine. Yeah, as long as you're not going to Gambling Anonymous or AA, because nobody likes a quitter.
We'll never quit.
Nobody likes a quitter. Absolutely not. Jason, tell us how you got to this point, and tell us all the great stuff that led up to it.
Sure. So I didn't know the fantasy football story until I started doing this, and essentially that's our story, except with the $1 million. We had our own fantasy league during COVID. Now, I'm a physical therapist by trade, and I actually market for a home health company. So like my job basically is to walk into hospitals and walk into doctors' offices and get them to send patients our way. Well, when COVID hit, I couldn't really go in the hospitals anymore. So a lot of it was just I was Uber eating stuff to people and sitting at home. So I decided, hey, what are we going to do? Let's do a show on our fantasy league. Why not? I got time to kill. So that's how it started. I basically videotape it off my phone. It took me an entire day on my phone to edit it. And I put it out there, and a lot of people started liking it, thought it was funny. And then we ended up running into with Belly Up Sports, give them a nice shout out. We talked with them. They brought us onto their network. They kind of pushed us. At the time, we were back on Anchor to start because we didn't really know how to present a show, but they said, hey, why don't you put what you had before on YouTube, which kind of was like, I was like, okay, maybe I can do that. So I've been ever since then been hard at work making videos and little interludes and things like that. And it's kind of caught on a little bit, even on social media. A lot of my tweets get out a lot. So that kind of moved into the producing side of things. Like I'm really finding a lot of fun in producing shows. So now that's why as we formed our organization, we have our first basketball show that just came out, the 3P podcast. We have a baseball show coming. We have WWE. We want to cover every genre at some point, and all these shows are starting to come out. We have one called the Deb Wickus Show, she's sports report Deb, and she's going to have interviews with players on. We're going to kind of run that as an SNL night show. So a lot of fun stuff coming our way, but that's how I started, and then getting into the excitement of the producing side of things is what I really enjoy.
Love it. No, that's super cool story. All right. So you guys have all got to this point, all kinds of great stuff going on. I think I know I've been on some of these shows. I can't remember if I've been on all of you guys' shows or just some. I get on so many during the summer, especially as we lead up to the Expo. But let's talk about last year's Expo. Now, I know, Jordan and Jason, you guys were both there last year. Jordan, I'll start with you. Talk about the first year experience, what you came out of there, what your thoughts were, how you, what did you think about it? Where could it be improved? Always looking for that too. Talk about your first year experience at the Expo last year.
So it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. It just being blunt, not trying to sugarcoat
low bar, dude. Low bar. Start low.
No, man, I'm going to tell it how it is. And I've always been the guy, like I said, I've liked Cooper since I was a kid. I've always just, digested every bit of fantasy or football, anything I can. Yeah, and so my buddy Travis has been trying to get me to come to the Expo a couple of years, Travis Sumter. Anyway, ended up flying into Chicago, meeting him there, driving up, and really just being honest, like I was like 90% excited to visit the Hall of Fame and 10% excited to come to this Expo, right?
That's fair. So I get it.
That was until I got to the Expo. And man, I don't remember how many people were there last year.
750.
750, yeah. Just being surrounded by that many like-minded individuals who are just as passionate and as in love with all of this as I am it was a game changer. Now, the Hall of Fame was the cherry on top. That was beautiful as well. And then if it could get any better, I mentioned the football guys. They were a VIP booth last year. Got to meet those guys. Been following them a long time, and I actually won the autographed Joe Burrow helmet from their booth. So it was like the perfect weekend for me. 100%.
I'm afraid for you to come back. It could be just I don't know.
Well, now I got these guys, so
it's can't get much more perfect than that, man. Jeez, awesome. All right, Jason, tell us about your experience. I don't know if it could be as good as Jordan, but maybe it was.
I don't know how orgasmic it was. No.
Yeah, I would say,
so we had a great time. Just like Jordan, I mean, the first thing, of course, on my mind, I've never been to the Hall of Fame. So I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so cool. That's all I'm thinking about, really, to be quite frank. And, when I arrive, it's the first night. There's all these people. You mentioned Michael Fabiano. A lot of people were out like partying. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then the next day, that's when we went to the hall. But I know you guys had the drafts and stuff and all that kind of good stuff. And then we did the football game. That was a lot of fun. Mind you, the guy playing quarterback made me go deep 3 straight plays. So on the 4th one, I'm like, but anyway, but it was a really cool experience and a lot of fun. I did the contest, I guess the football,
quarterback skills challenge.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Just again, if you're into football, there's nothing that beats this experience. Even that night, I know you mentioned pre-show, you mentioned Howard Bender. So Howard been on our show a few times. And, again, I don't know who Howard is. Like, I don't know that he was this big time guy in fantasy. I'm just kind of so new to this. I don't know who's who. And so we're hanging out and and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear, it's the boys from TSS Fantasy. And I'm like, and all of a sudden, this big old sweaty arm comes around. It's Howard Bender. And everybody looking at us like we're cool. And now all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, this is cool. Anyway, it was a very cool experience. Howard Bender is a very cool guy, obviously.
Oh, so nice.
So very, very cool. And in fact, the next day when we walked in, I guess they were live streaming or live taping from the expo. And as we walk in, he's actually just perfect timing. He's going through his spiel. The who's who of fantasy's here. Michael Fabiano, he's going to this list. And he goes, and the boys from TSS Fantasy as we walk by. I was like, oh yeah. So like Jordan, I'm like, all right, that's it. This was already cool. I don't need any more. That's all we need.
Yeah, because he was live on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. So yeah, that was a nice shout out across the nation. That's for sure.
That was a nice shout out indeed. So yeah, absolutely. No, it was a great time. And then the expo itself, walking around, getting to see the people of the industry. That's very cool too. We see them on the internet all the time. You don't really interact with them, so that's always a cool thing too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. All right, so it's newbies coming in this year. We've got Chris and Eric coming in. So tell us about what you're looking forward to at this year's Expo from either what Jordan and Jason have told you, what you've heard about from Twitter, or if you have any questions for me, like, hey, Bob, I know this is going on, but how should we plan for X? So we'll start with Chris.
Yeah, I'm number one. I've never been to the Hall of Fame, so that has always been a dream of mine. So I'm trying to say, but yeah, I'm excited though because all the stories that these guys have told, I don't even want to really have any expectations. I just want to
go and enjoy.
This will be like, so me and Jason, me and JT, we've never met in person, so this is going to be fun to go out, break bread, and hang out, and it's going to be a good time. We're going to have a big crowd. It'll be me, Eric, probably Coach, maybe John or Angela, and then TSS guys will all be there, and Jordan. We might have some other of our people that podcast with us.
Awesome.
Over on Fantasy Sports Corp, we have a lot of different new shows that are coming on, new podcasters.
Yeah, we're going to be running deep for sure.
It's going to be a fun time. I mean, we're going to have fun.
So are you guys putting together a football team? Flag football team?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Are you kidding me right now? I mean, I'm not running, but I'll throw the ball.
Do you have on-site chiropractors? Or
yeah, well, hey,
a senior bowl? Do you have a senior bowl?
The fantasy doctors show up. You got you're a physical therapist. We got all kinds of physical therapists there.
Yeah, right? Dr. David Chow, he'll probably be there.
He hasn't been, but I've been trying to get him there. He always sends one of his people, but I haven't got him to show up yet. But we're working on it. I every year I'm like, Doc, you gonna make it? Well, I'm gonna send. I don't forget Travis or I don't remember what the kid's name is, but he comes in, he represents. I'm like, that's fine. He was on the panel. So we're super excited about that. So Eric, anything from your perspective? What are you hoping to do? Obviously Hall of Fame is high on everybody's list if you haven't been there before, but a lot of other cool things to do. Talk about what you're looking forward to do.
Yeah, I'm weird, I guess. Sitting here like, oh yeah, it's in Canton. Like I'd been thinking about the expo the whole time, what I'm going to do, who I'm going to meet there. I'm excited to meet people and see what everybody else is doing. We're going to be able to walk around and see what everybody else is putting in their chili and how they make it.
I've never heard that phrase, but
that'll be interesting. Trade ideas and stuff. And fantasy football people, for the most part, like a vast majority of them are great people. They're going to, we're going to ask questions and they're going to answer them. People ask us questions and we're going to have great conversations. I think I'm going to leave there very glad I went and with a lot of new contacts in my phone.
Yeah, no. And I think that's what and certainly a lot of people say that is, hey, I went and I met these people and these people. I had them on my podcast. They went on mine. I went on theirs, and that's how kind of this whole thing really kicked into gear. Was the first year we did 2019. All we did is meet at a BW3s on Saturday night. There was no Friday night party. It was just King's Classic stuff on Saturday, Expo stuff on Sunday, and the 70 of us kind of met. But the cool thing was, 25 to 30 of them was these big shots like Bob Harris and Marcus Grant from NFL, Michael Fabiano, and then kind of I always call us the RB2s. the people who, full-time jobs, do this on the side, and
but
they
workhorses
came together at this BW3s, and what everybody walked away from, which I already knew, well, what all these new people walked away was, oh my gosh, Marcus Grant and Michael Fabiano and Mike Clay and Andy Behrens, these guys are so nice. They're going to come on my podcast. Me, I have, I'm just saying, representing people. Like, I have 30 people that watch my podcast, but, Andy Behrens is coming up. And they're like, they're so nice and they're so helpful. And they want to, and it was like, yeah, they are. And and now it's, that's why I think we all figured out, like, look, yeah, some of these people are a big deal, but they're just like you and I, and they all had to work to get there. Some of them made it. Some of us, maybe we will. I don't know. If we don't, we don't. But we're excited for what we've done in this industry. We've made an impact. We have what we're happy with, and that's all that matters. And
you're building bridges, Bob.
Huh?
You're building bridges.
Yeah, right. And so now you're right. And the funny thing is, the people who said, look, I've been on Twitter and there's a lot of trolls and I don't like some of the people out there. And I go, who doesn't come to this event? Those people.
Right.
Because they get their ass kicked, basically.
They don't want that. They don't want none of that.
They don't want any of that.
Real quick, I just want to throw this out there real quick. Apparently I'm the guy with the stories, but I just have a quick Expo story from last year. So the whole time I'm there, I obviously watch, shows and we listen to shows, and I love the NFL Fantasy Live, and I love Marcus Grant. A lot of our stuff is based off that. Like, we do a lot of skits based off what they do. And this whole time, I'm like, man, I can't wait to see this guy. So the next morning, I literally got there really early because I had to set up and do a few things. And I'll be damned if it ain't Marcus Grant walking down the hallway. It's just me and him. There's nobody there. But it's so early in the morning. I just gave him we walked by and I'm like, damn, man. I was like, one time to talk to him. But anyway, Marcus, I'm coming for you, man.
There you go. All right. Yeah, no, Marcus, awesome. Love him. Marcus is, and that's the other thing too, is, every year I thank those big shots, and, they just smile and just chuckle when I call them big shots. But because I told them, I go, look, you guys made this happen. I said, because they're all like, no, you made it happen. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I put the idea out there and I made it available to people. But let's be honest, if the big shots don't support it, if none of those guys came,
nobody else is coming.
Would show up. And, it's like, yeah, it's a great event, and I appreciate that. And I always, appreciate the love that comes from others. But I tell them every year, guys, thank you, because without your support, this really doesn't pull it off like it does. And so I always thank them and always appreciate everything they do. So, yeah, they are great people, and they love it. They're excited every year now to come, and, they're all jacked up already, and as are a lot of people. So, do you guys have any other questions for, like, what's going on? I mean, Jason, let's talk. I guess let's ask this: does the Fantasy Sports Corp, what big plans do you have as you're now a VIP sponsor this year? What big plans do you guys have for the folks that are coming in, that are going to come to your booth and hang out with you guys?
Yeah, so we're going to have some games set up because it's a lot of stuff that we like to do on our show. I know, and I know we are going to have some contest giveaways, obviously, that kind of good stuff. But for the interaction part, we definitely want to involve a lot of the guests and creators in coming and playing some games with us. Bob, you've been on my show before. You mentioned, you weren't sure, but you were one. And you'd mentioned it earlier. I've had a lot of creators on my show, and going to the Expo is such a cool thing, because then those guys that have been on your show, like Matt Donnelly, for example, I ran into him at the QB Challenge, and I was like, "What's up, man?" It's just so cool to see him because he's been on the show and it's somebody you met. So we're gonna do that kind of stuff, just more fun, interactive things to kind of get you guys involved and see what we're all about. Like I said, it's all about the fun on our side.
Love it. Any other questions from you guys that you're like, hey, Bob, what's new, what's different?
Well, tell us what's new, what's different, Bob.
Are we there yet?
Yeah, exactly. Is it time? Yeah, April 11th will be 4 months away. Seems like forever, but yeah. There is a couple of new things, I will say that. So the Expo this year will not be in the hotel. the Expo will be in the Dome, the 100,000 square foot football field, 75-yard football field in the middle of it. We're going to be at the end zone area on a flat surface with all 50 booths. And the panel discussions will all be in that room. And the cool thing is, if you want to go out and throw some footballs around, we might have the QB skills challenge set up out there. You can. And then go and watch the, whatever panels you want. As always, we'll have 4 panels going on at the same time. Of course, we'll get some of you guys on some of the panels based on your expertise, especially sports betting is going to be a big deal this year because Ohio is legal. So that's going to be fun. So we'll definitely have a lot more involvement there. We also are going to have a van that will be transporting people to and from the Friday party, Saturday party, and Expo all day to help with people not wanting to drive, especially when they've been drinking. But also just because not everybody has a car, and it's not difficult to get around Canton, but there's not a lot of Ubers either. So I try to address that this year by getting a van. If you guys want to be a sponsor, we're looking for a sponsor for the van to put your big logo on the side of both sides. Let me know if you're interested. We're definitely looking for that. But yeah, we're really excited to be able to do that. The Expo is going to be great inside the new Dome. We're also going to be playing the flag football in the Dome as well, because we don't know what the weather will be like. So if it's hot, cold, wet, dry, doesn't matter. We don't have to worry about it. So that's a couple of the new things this year. Saturday party will also be on the Hall of Fame grounds as well.
Awesome. It's always
going to be a good time, huh?
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. And like I said, we're always looking for new things. We've been in talks with some former players to see if they've had some excitement about getting involved, but I'm not going to say anything because last year we thought we were going to get Des Bryant. It didn't work.
we understand.
We do understand.
I'm sure you do.
Yep.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you again for the time. I'm going to let each one of you just talk about where they can find you on Twitter, talk about whatever shows you're doing so that people can, and then we'll take it out from there. So once again, we will start with Chris. Tell us about your guys' show, where they can find you on Twitter and any other social medias.
Yeah, you can find me and Eric at on Twitter at Patriots Pod, and Eric is at PSR Host Guy. I am at PSR Producer on Twitter, and everything that we do is on www.patriotsportsnow.com. You can find us on YouTube, Fantasy Sports Corp, or Patriot Sports Radio. We do some stuff over on our YouTube, but mainly everything for YouTube is over there. Awesome. On Rumble, Patriot Sports Radio. What do you think? Is that about it, Eric? Does that cover
Eric, anything to add?
Spotify, nope. We do a Patriot Sports Radio. Our main one is a podcast, and it's not live. There's no video. It's over Spotify, Apple, everywhere you get that stuff, or on our website.
There's no Commissioner Cooper pizzazz on it.
No video there.
We'll get to you. Calm down. All right, Jordan, where can I find you?
You can find me everywhere that Fantasy Sports Corporation is located. Check me out with my partner E-Man every Thursday night on the Weekly Throwdown. I am also on PatriotSportsNow.com. I write articles over there for them. Soon to be writing articles also for FantasySportsCorporation.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, at Truth Serum Football, or at Truth Serum FF.
Love it. All right, Commish.
I want to second when Jordan's saying, make sure you check out that new show, The Weekly Throwdown, a little mix of PTI and Around the Horn with two guys going mano-a-mano on the latest sports subjects. Make sure you check that out. Again, on the Fantasy Sports Corporation, you can find my show, TSS Fantasy. Obviously, now, last year we kind of went through the season. This year I took some time off to create the network. We do have a spinoff show coming up, which will be very cool with Chuck Bass and Jagger, Justin Herrera, and Andrew LeDuc. It'll be TSS Dynasty. That way we have a show all year round when I finally want to take a break during the summer. But find us, again, TSS Fantasy. You can go to tssfantasy.com. We will have Fantasy Sports Corporation up soon, so make sure you check that out when it gets there. Come subscribe. We got a lot of fun and cool stuff coming, guys. So come check us out.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, again for being a part of this tonight. Once again, for the Fantasy Sports Corporation, I'm Bob Lung, Fantasy Football Expo. Thank you again for listening. Everybody, take care. God bless. We'll see you soon. Hey, everybody. Do you want to continue to learn more about the Fantasy Football Expo? Well, then subscribe to our channel so you don't miss an episode. Expo registration is now open,
So make sure you visit thefantasyfootballexpo.com to get your tickets now. And come and experience fantasy football's greatest weekend in Canton, Ohio this August 11th through the 13th.